All right, well, hello everyone. I'm really happy to introduce to you guys the CryptoStrikers team. So Gianni and Benn are the brains behind the operation. They're the ones who started this project, and they've been part of Status Incubate for about a month or so now. And so today we're going to have a quick interview. We'll go through a few questions and ask them about their project and a little bit about their backgrounds to just sort of get to know what they're doing a little bit better. So guys, thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate it. I think the first question I have is really just, if you could just introduce yourselves and tell us a little about your backgrounds.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I'll go first, Ben.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, my name's Gianni. I'm like the tech lead on CryptoStrikers. So my background's as a iOS engineer, so mobile applications.
Mm-hmm.
Born and raised in Montreal. Worked in like a few like iOS development studios before moving over to New York for 3 years, where I was an early employee at a fantasy sports startup called Draft. That went really well. Basically, we got acquired, and after the acquisition, I kind of caught the crypto bug and started digging into Ethereum because I was really interested in the smart contracts and the kind of these decentralized applications you can build on top of them. And I kind of just kicked around ideas for a while. Nothing concrete came of it until I met Benn through a mutual connection. And we're both kind of, formerly working in the sports industry. So we started kicking around sports-based ideas. And eventually when CryptoKitties came out last December, it just was like a logical step for us to think of like, what could a sports trading card game be on the Ethereum blockchain in a fully decentralized and trustless way. So I'll let Ben pick up from there.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, my background is a combination of product management and business development. I've been working exclusively in the sports domain since 2010. When I joined a company called FanFeeder, and we were trying to aggregate views around the world on different sports and provide customized personal streams. And I was a combination of like managing their API program and also the product manager on their mobile apps. And then I went over to USA Today Sports, first person on their product team. USA Today Sports was trying to reinvent what they were doing in the mobile space. Joined them for a while. And then the last 4 years, I've been working at a company called Sportradar, which is the biggest data provider in the world. Collect data meaning like statistics and scoring plays and play-by-play information. They sell it to companies all over the world. And there, I was doing business development, but also working with companies like Facebook to come up with cool product integrations.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd been there at 4 years. It's a similar story to Gianni. We'd like done a 4-year tour at our last company. Both had been acquired, and just like really caught the crypto bug early, like 2017. I had bought Bitcoin like way back in 2012, but I think life distracted me a bit. And as I was looking for other opportunities, like just became fascinated with like the crypto space. And we both left our respective jobs around the same time last year. And I actually spent like a month or two just on the beach reading white papers all the time. And then like right around the time the weather got colder, a mutual contact connected us. And it was great because Gianni was looking at oracles from a sports perspective. And I had actually just finished some research doing that. And my company had created data. So it was an interesting, like, how do you port this one idea over to the blockchain? And we were both looking at the same thing. And I think we just kind of hit it off from there. And then, we kicked a few ideas around, and eventually, I think, what was it, February, Gianni? We probably decided like, hey, we should try to get something out, learn about dApps and the protocols, and, put something out there and learn about the space.
Yeah. So that actually leads really nicely into my next question, which is, why did you pick this specific project to work on? I guess, Gianni, you answered that a little bit in your Medium post, but for those who haven't seen that, maybe you guys can just give a quick recap.
Yeah, I mean, I think this, what was made possible with the ERC 721 tokens that CryptoKitties kind of came up is this idea of a digital scarcity. And this is the first time ever that, a digital good can be rare. So you think of like, for example, like MP3 files back when like music first started getting ripped to computers. You can just share this file over and over again, and like the file loses. The music industry kind of collapsed under that. So for the first time ever now with this ERC 721 standard, we have the digital scarcity. So I think that's a really interesting concept. And you also have digital ownership as well, so that you as the user have the file in your digital wallet,
Yeah.
and it's not, tied to the servers of any given company. If, for example, CryptoStrikers were to shut down, you still are the owner of your cards. So I think these are like very powerful concepts, and that weren't possible before these innovations that were made possible by Ethereum.
Yeah, so Ben, Johnny and I had like been brainstorming ideas for like, we probably had like 10 that we were looking at one point, and then kind of whittled it down here. Like one of the, I guess, inspirations for the app is something that happened to me the last World Cup, in that I got introduced to like Panini stickers by my brother, and I'm not, you're overseas. I'm not sure if you've like, experienced those before. But I actually my brother had just been to Colombia. He got me this like sticker book, and I was like, I have no idea what this is. And I was, priding myself as someone in the sports industry who knows every app. So I actually found a trading market in Queens to see what it was all about. And it that memory of that experience where there were people actually trading physical goods, and the story, of that collection in general is that no one really knows how many stickers there are. How are they printed? What's the distribution? What's the scarcity? I think after seeing CryptoKitties, like that idea kind of popped back into my mind, and like we talked about it, and it just seemed like a really interesting idea for us to kind of pursue. And, I think what we put out now is just like kind of like step one in what we could be building. Like the cards, I think, are really just like a base platform or base layer for what we want to do going forward. I think that covers that.
NFTs have been getting a lot of attention, I think, the last few months, and I guess their potential expands beyond just collectibles. Where do you guys see CryptoStrikers going? Like, what are the future plans for the project?
Yeah, I mean, so Ben and I are both, again, from like the fantasy sports or sports space. So we definitely see because the card layer is open, so anybody has access to the ownership data. They can see that you, Ben, own X cards, I own these cards. So there's nothing stopping the community from building their own games on top of the cards, but also we can build really cool experiences where we leverage the cards that you own for some kind of competition. And I've also been very interested in this thing called crypto composables, which is a kind of a newer concept that's come up, where you're able to combine basically different NFTs, so different tokens, into one. So you can think of like an example. Imagine if you had a cryptographic signature of your favorite player, and you can combine it with your card, and now your card is like a fully customized signed version of like the card you had before. Or you can kind of unlock that your player has some kind of achievement in real life, and your card that you own accrues some stats because of the player's real life performance. So these cards are kind of evolving over time with some like real life events. I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, and also like Ben, like this stuff's happening so quickly. I mean, when Gianni and I started in on this, like our first like sprint, I guess, in New York in early March, like the composables concept, I think we read about that like a month or two in. So like in the short period where we've put out this app, there's like been all these interesting concepts and ideas that we think we can latch onto a bit and kind of apply, and it's really been helping shape our thinking. We just need to, I think, after the tournament here, kind of sit back and kind of check what we've learned from this app, the experience, and then kind of like get back into the war room, I guess, and chart out a longer term roadmap. But like we're really excited, like how quickly things are moving in the space. Like there's just every day it's like you read one thing and it gives you some more ideas on what we could do. So it's really an exciting time to be in this.
Yeah. And so what would you guys say has been the most challenging thing over the last few months, or since February? What has been the most difficult thing that you've had to overcome?
I would say that, being such a small team, first of all, like there's a lot of work that goes into developing a product. We were lucky we found these really great illustrators and great designers. They made that part of the job easy. And we didn't really have to like waste too much time like shopping around. Like kind of the first people we found were great for the job. But then in terms of like, me and Ben, like I'm the only engineer on the project. There's tons of engineering work to do to build a product from the ground up. There's a lot of product decisions to make that as a group, Ben and I would meet up and talk about stuff, and then we'd start implementing it. And then it's, we didn't think of this use case or this edge case. So basically a lot of work for a team of 2 people. I think we came out of it pretty well. Like we ended up shipping a product we're proud of. In terms of the tech side, I think the smart contracts were definitely the most challenging part of the process, just because that they're very unforgiving. If you make a mistake in your smart contract and you ship them to the main net and there's a critical bug, someone can come in and, either break the game for every other user, or they can steal user funds or do a bunch of stuff that you don't want people doing in the contract. So we really have to get those smart contracts right on the one try that we had, and so far they're holding up really nicely. So obviously we're proud of that. But that was, obviously the smart contracts are the most challenging tech part, I would say.
Yeah, can imagine.
Yeah, I think, also too, right, Gianni, on the game mechanic side, like I think we spent a lot of time trying to figure out like scarcity and like card distribution, and we originally wanted to have more players, and then a function of time and what our illustrator could put out, we ended up at 100, and there wasn't, you can actually see like how we're distributing the cards and the rarity levels and scarcity and distribution and how all that stuff works, but there was, there's no template that we could look at. Like, a lot of times you build a mobile app and you can look at company XYZ to kind of look at it. Here, there was CryptoKitties, but they actually have a pretty high supply now of cards, and their game functions differently than ours. Mm-hmm. And I think part of the interest in what we're doing in terms of the blockchain is like, the centralized companies don't really reveal what they're doing. So there wasn't like, we didn't really have a good benchmark. And I think it was, I don't know if it was a challenge. It was just like, it was something we had to really spend a lot of time on. And I think we're learning in early days, was this decision the right decision or not? But that was another, I think, key area for us to kind of like iterate on. And we were iterating on that until the end. And, another thing too is like, we didn't have a lot of time. Like ideally, this is a really short sprint for us to 3 months to get an app out. Ideally, we would have, done some user testing and each step of the way and kind of iterated more. So it's a true like minimum viable product in some ways, and that we haven't even, gotten into the feedback stage. So what we're doing now is really valuable because we can actually talk to users in real time. And it's been great.
I guess one more question is what do you think is the key learning from this experience? So if we have some ambitious founders that may be listening to this interview, is there a specific learning that you would want to share with them if they're thinking about doing something of their own?
Yeah, mine would be that like crypto UX is still very, very still not evolved at all. So, right now, most of our users, I feel like, are people who've used crypto in the past, who knew what MetaMask was, who understand gas price, gas limit. And even then, there's definitely still some issues where they have questions about the product and they're not sure how to do something. But the learning curve for a new user who's coming in cold to crypto is still so huge. Yeah. And I think we really tried our best to make it simple for them. And I think we maybe came up a bit short because I've heard of people that just get onto the site, like, okay, I downloaded this wallet. Now, how does this work? What do I do? So that stuff, like the space in general, is going to have to really improve in terms of the UX for new users if adoption is to reach the mainstream. So that would be my main kind of takeaway is really, really focus. Because if you can build a crypto app that really nails UX, your shoulders above anybody else. So yeah, focus on UX, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's been the toughest challenge for us. Even people who are familiar bought cryptocurrencies before, they may not have even purchased a crypto asset, a crypto collectible. So it's actually a different process too, even though if you're familiar with what Ethereum is. So what's one thing that's interesting, like Gianni's been mentioning, MetaMask is most people are on that's a desktop extension really. So most people are familiar now with mobile. And when we get a user on status versus using desktop, there's a big difference. It's a lot, I think, more intuitive for users to kind of get into an app on a mobile device. Yeah. But I think it was really just challenging. I think to echo what Gianni said, if we had more time to kind of meet with different types of users, segment them out into personas, we could have really nailed the UX. But I think if a founding team had that time to do that's where they should spend their time on. Take someone who's never heard of crypto, take someone who's bought tons of CryptoKitties and test with everyone in between, because there's just a lot of different knowledge level across the board.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a challenge that almost all projects in this space are having. So I actually have one more question, and it is, what is your pick for the World Cup? Who is your pick for the World Cup?
Well, Gianni's
Ben, you go
friend.
first.
Yeah, go ahead. I think I know what you're gonna say, but all right, go ahead.
Well, I'm wearing a France hat right now. So
Okay.
Okay.
yeah. I lived in France for a bit. My dad's Italian. Italy's not in the World Cup, so I think I have to root for France.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ben?
I'm following Belgium, but the team I'd like to see win is Argentina, so Messi can get his trophy. So
Yeah.
I'm ready to jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
As an American, we don't have a team, unfortunately, but really appreciate Messi's career. So it'd be great if those guys can make a run.
Yeah. Hope he actually wins this time around. That's awesome. Guys, thank you very much for your time. That's all I've got from you. It's been great having you guys as part of the Status Incubate family over the last month or so. And we're really looking forward to see where CryptoStrikers ends up going. So I think you've done a fantastic job. So thanks for spending the time with me today.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
All right.